So back in 2013, I can remember leasing a Nissan Maxima, for 39 months, and I remember the payments were about $400 a month, right? And I remember that car because driving a nice car is one of the best things. Being able to drive a nice car, everyone should have that experience, right? It's a great feeling. Everything's new. You get to ride in that. It's a really good feeling. But I remember leasing that car. Like I said, 39 months, and the payments were $400 a month. And then obviously in 2018, I started making money with my business. And then, obviously started educating myself when it comes to finances. And I said to myself, all right, you know what? Financing a car just doesn't make sense, right? So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go look for a car. I'm gonna pay it cash. And I said my budget at that time, I was like, you know what? It's gonna be $10,000. I'm not going no higher than that. So I remember walking in the dealership, talking to the guy, and I was like, look, my budget's $10,000. That's all I got. That's all you're getting, right? And they tried to get me to buy another car. I was like, I'll look at it, but yeah, there's no guarantee I'll buy it, right? So $10,000 cash. I said, take it or leave it. I saw this Nissan Altima. It was a 2015. They took it, they accepted it. So, and it was like 61,000 miles on it, and I have it till this day, right? And obviously paying that cash was like having no payments was a big deal, right? Because I wanted to make sure I didn't have any payments when it comes to buying a car, and it was something that I could afford at the time, and that was my budget, right? And it makes sense once you have a budget, it's easier to just say, all right, you know what, this is what I want, this is what I can handle, and then you go for it. But today, and I would recommend anyone, like when it comes to purchasing anything, I would recommend everyone buy a car in cash, right? Don't finance anything that doesn't make you money outside of a home. But looking at it today, trying to buy a car today, man, it's hard for me to be like, buy a car in cash because it's so expensive, right? It's impossible for people to just want to be like, drop, $20,000 on a car, $30,000 on a car, depending on which car you're looking to get. And it's hard for me to just say, do that, because how many people just have tens of thousands of dollars in cash waiting just to buy a vehicle? So more than likely a lot of people are going to just be financing cars, whether you're leasing it or doing the finance. But even though I would still recommend paying in cash, it's just hard to do that these days. And based on articles that you're reading, like some of these payments are now like $600, $700, $800 like average per month for financing these vehicles. And I'm like, how are people able to do that, right? With everything being so expensive, inflation, even though inflation is coming down, doesn't mean that things aren't expensive as expensive as they were like a year ago. Even though the rate of inflation is going down, things are very expensive. Like everything is going up when it comes to housing, gas, energy, just food. Everything is going up. So you look at cars, and if you want to buy a new car, even a used car is even more expensive. I think in some cases the used car is more expensive than a new car. It's crazy. And it's like, how can anybody afford that? But people are out there doing that, and you see delinquency is starting to rise when it comes to the vehicles, and you're like, all right, so how are people affording these things? And I like me paying $400 a month back in 2013. It's just hard for me to be able to say I'd pay average $750 for a car today. But that's what a lot of people are doing, and I don't know how they're doing it, but a lot of people are doing it, and I think it's for a lot of people. It's starting. I think the effects are starting to show. So I came across this article in Wall Street Journal, right? And it says the car prices might be unsustainable for buyers, right? It's a surge in loan delinquencies signal that many consumers can't afford their auto loans. All right. So it said, all right, so let's get into the article. It says, 5 years ago, there was a dozen models of new cars that sold for less than $20,000, right? So you could get if you were looking for a car, under $20,000, there was cars available. But so now in 2023, there was only one, the Spartan Mitsubishi Mirage hatchback, which accounted for about 5,300 of the 7.7 million new vehicles sold in the U.S. Was the first half of the year. So if you're willing to spend more than $100,000, you can choose from 32 models. All right, for the average American, paying off a new car at current prices demands 42 weeks of income, according to data from Cox Automotive, up around 33 before the pandemic. So it says bargains have been hard to come by on a used car lot as well, as where the average vehicle listed for about $27,000, which is up more than 30% from pre-pandemic levels, according to Cox data. So higher interest rates have made the situation more difficult for buyers. Today's average new car loan has a monthly payment north of $750, with interest rates at 9.5%. And that's crazy. I don't understand how people are paying cars at such a high interest. That's ridiculous. ridiculous, and that's why I usually recommend. I mean, a lot of people recommend that you buy the car cash. But like I said, obviously things are a little different. It's kind of difficult to do that. But taking on a car with an interest rate of 9.5%, and that's for a new car. That's just like that's I don't understand. And you see with the Fed's raising interest rates, it's only going to go higher. Like, I mean, you just can't really afford that. Majority of people can't afford that, right? And so it says for used cars, the average rate is above 13.7% according to Cox. The average term for loans issued over the past 3 years is nearly 6 years, according from data from Experian. And they're gonna have to extend these years, right? Like, I mean, 6 years. You're gonna start seeing 7-8 year auto loans, right? And because just so they can lower those monthly payments, because $750 is just unsustainable, right? So it says these numbers could explain a mystery bedeviling auto lending. Seasonalized rates of severe delinquencies for auto loans are at the highest since at least 2006, but the job market is still strong. And so you would, and I think a lot of people talk about there's a correlation. Like usually when unemployment increases, so does delinquency on auto vehicles. But unemployment is low, and there's still an increase in delinquency. So you can tell a lot of people are strapped for cash when it comes to inflation, just the rise of price of everything being more expensive. People are starting to really like impact in terms of like making sure they keep up with their auto loan payments. So it says usually you get the default spikes when unemployment spikes. It is the biggest correlation in consumer credit, said Clay and Trick, a fund manager, fixed income investor. To see it go up that much while unemployment is still low is typical. So automakers leaned into the pricing power during pandemic, giving priority to selling more expensive vehicles and features as supply chain issues constrain inventories and shoppers have more savings from pandemic stimulus packages. They have continued to boost prices. General Motors said that last month, the average price paid by its buyers rose 3% over quarter to $52,000. So people are still paying, right? It went up 3%. So people are still paying for these things. How they doing it, I don't know, but they're getting it done. Obviously, the probably majority has decent credit. They're finding ways to get a loan for this. So it says so far higher prices have been a positive for automakers and dealers. Share prices for public dealerships group has surged this year. Automakers have generated profits that they can put towards their expensive transition for electric vehicles. The large dealers have made big profits from their parts and service businesses as drivers hold on to cars for longer. So maybe the reason, some people suggest that probably like what they're trying to do is like they're trying to make things so expensive that can push people towards like electric vehicles, right? Obviously the government's invested in the electric vehicles, so maybe that's what they want to push people towards. Obviously, the environment, so they want to push people towards the electric vehicle. They want to get people to say, you know what, buying gas is just way too expensive. These cars are just so expensive. If I'm gonna pay this much for a gas car, why don't I just purchase the electric, right? Who knows? That's just a thought that's thrown out there. But says, but there are signs that the market might already be struggling to sustain itself. If consumers rebel against the higher price of sales, which so far have been stronger than expected, could slow, particularly among the pricey vehicles that have been generating most of the industry's profits. And consumers who want to trade in their vehicles might be disappointed with the prices they get. Right. So, and amongst those who brave the market is at its highest price this year, many are really already struggling to keep up with their payments. The performance of loans issued for the first half of this year has at a peak. The price surge has been especially poor. Right. So it says defaults and missed payments on pools of auto loans made it in the first half of last year to people with subpar credit are matching or outpacing those issued in 2008, according to an analyst published last week in S&P Global that called the data ominous. So obviously, if you got poor credit, those people are going to be the most likely to eventually default into their loans, right? If you don't have good credit to begin with, and then when things start getting tight, things get more expensive, then those are going to be the first people that's going to not be able to keep up with the payments. And then they say the squeeze faced by borrowers might soon ratchet even tighter with payment holiday for student loans set to expire at the end of the month. According to the credit report agency TransUnion, more than a third of consumers with student loans took on new auto loans during the pandemic. So that's another thing that's gonna pop up once students start student borrowers start making payments on their student loans. That's going to also take effect on how they make payments on other things like auto loans, mortgage payments if you own a home. So that's going to be another thing that's going to be tough for a lot of people. So once payments start, even though I think it was the next October, that's when the first payments start, September, October. A lot of people are going to be like, all right, $300-$400 extra on their budget. It's going to be tough, right? So that's going to be something to be looking forward to in the next couple of months. So it says prices for used cars are slowly coming back to earth and inventories are slowly going up, but cars remain expensive. Used car dealers nationwide had 32 days of sales worth of cars on hand with a price of $10,000 or less, compared to with 55 days of used cars listed at $35,000 and up. So yeah, so I look at, man, I'm not sure how people are making these payments. I mean, or how they're keeping up with payments, and maybe it's coming. Obviously it's impacting people right now, but like, it's hard for me to say, recommend people start paying cash for these things, especially when you see these prices of these cars of $20,000-$30,000. It's just hard to say, let me just drop $20,000 on a car, especially if you don't got it. But people have to figure that out, because that's just something. The prices of increasing like this is just unsustainable. People cannot pay for that. People just don't have money like that laying around, or unless you're super wealthy, you'll be the ones that afford this. But the majority of people are going to be struggling trying to come up with payments for a car. So if you got a car right now that's working, that's functional, you need to ride that thing out, right? Because the only way this is going to come down is obviously if they start making more cars, or people just start not purchasing these cars, dropping the demand. They got to drop demand, increase supply. So they're going to have to figure it out, because it's just unsustainable. People can't afford cars at the price they are now. So let me know what you think. Like, are you buying cars right now? Are you able to make payments on your cars? Like, how is this impacting your ability to purchase a car if you need one? Leave a comment down below, hit the like button, share, and if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe. All right, so you guys take care and have a good one. Later.